Good morning. We're going to try to work on some Mod Podge for the floor. I was looking for some YouTube videos and couldn't find any, so I decided to make one of my own when I'm doing the floor that we're working on. Here's a picture of the floor before. Obviously there's the puppy. He is going to walk right off of it. Come on. So there's the floor before. We've laid it all out. First we painted the floor with primer, and then we painted it with paint, and now we're going to put the napkins. These are just napkins that you get at the party store, and then they are 2-ply or 3-ply, so then you have to peel off, and so then all you have is the front with the decoration. So then when we use the Mod Podge, that is all you see. The hope is that when we put this down, it will look like old linoleum floor. This is an old house, and so we had an empty spot where we needed to put something in the wood floor and didn't want regular wood floor because of the situation. So we're going to do this to try to make it look like old linoleum. So here we go. Okay, now we're back. I've picked up all of the napkins and laid them in a pile kind of right along the line where we're going to put them to make them easy to get to. So here's the space that we're going to use. And again, it's just white paint over the plywood. And then we're going to, so we have our napkins, and we have a piece of plastic. You can also use saran wrap, but we're going to try this piece of plastic because it doesn't cling to itself as much as saran wrap does. And we're going to try, it was just a drop cloth that you get at the dollar store, and I just cut a piece of it off. So I'm going to get the Mod Podge ready, and we're going to get started. Okay, we have the napkins and the plastic and the Mod Podge in a container I can use, and this is a 2-inch brush. You can probably use a smaller one. I don't know that I would go much bigger. One disclaimer, this is the first time I've ever done this, so we will see how easy it is to do, so that way you don't have to be scared to try something new. So that's the whole point of arts and crafts, is that in trying something new, you know, most time it doesn't ruin anything. You just redo it if you have to, but give it a shot. Don't be scared to try. So that's the whole point. So we're going to get started here. Putting a thin coat. Can't hardly see it because of the white on the white. But we're going to get a thin coat about the size of your napkin. Okay. Get my plastic ready. All right, we're going to put this down just like this. And everybody says you don't have to worry if it has a crease or a tear. The first ones are always kind of the weirdest ones. Trying to keep it straight. Put the plastic down to use that to try to help kind of smooth everything out to the floor. I left a little overage, so that way the wall is not totally straight. So that way I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to run out of and have a crooked design. So I just give myself a little extra. You can always take off the stuff at the extra. So that's down. That looks pretty cool. See, that's stuck. So again, you don't have to worry, because now we're going to come back and put Mod Podge over the whole top of it. The creases in the napkin, we talked about ironing those out, but we decided not to. So I'm going to Mod Podge that. Do have a little spot right there that kind of came over, so we're going to try to fix that little spot. I can't put the plastic down. So yeah, so I have a little spot right there that needs the, see if I can open that back up. Put that right back down. Again, this is all kind of the trial and error, but just don't be scared to try. And again, we kind of want the rustic look, so that's kind of my disclaimer, is like, well, we'll have that'll be part of the rustic look. And the hope with starting back here in the corner, we'll kind of figure out our technique by the time we get out into the main room. So I'm just going to work a line all the way across, and then come and do the next line and kind of work myself backwards out the door. So let's do this next one and see what we come up with here. Watching different people's videos, I couldn't really find one for doing the floor, so that's when we came up with the idea of doing our own video. I think I missed a spot. Okay, so we're going to try to overlap it and keep it pretty straight. There we go, I pulled it up. Trying to keep my edges straight. I didn't get them quite straight. I don't know if you can see that or not, but see how they're a little crooked right there? They don't quite line up, but when we do the overlap on the other one, we'll be all right. So that's two. Let me go to let me put the Mod Podge over top of it. Just a light layer is all you need. And it dries pretty quick, so you have to, not that you have to be scared to work quick, but you have to remember where you did, because you see it white for just a minute, so that you know you've got it all covered. Now we're going to be putting polyurethane over the whole thing too, so that's, so we'll get it all covered eventually. So that's two. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple rows and come back and we'll show you how it looks. Okay, it took a while due to some interruptions and other things, but just taking my time. But here's the first couple rows. And I'm going to get back in this corner, and then I'm going to do two across all the way over. And I'm finding that while it seems like you can smooth it out with your hand, I try to get out the crease of the fold of the napkin. But yes, using a piece of plastic or saran wrap is a much better idea, because otherwise as you run your hand over the napkin, doesn't matter how gentle you are, you'll get a little tear and then it'll slide. So using the napkin or the plastic will help keep that from happening. And then when you put the Mod Podge over your laid napkin, is to be very gentle and to go from the center of the napkin and work towards the outside. That way you can help try to minimize some of your wrinkles with your brush if you do it really gently. So I'm going to keep going and just to give you an update here in just a little bit. Alright, here's the floor so far. Gotten all the way to the doorway, And I don't know if I can show you, but when I went around the corner or around the door frame, I just kind of cut it out and just kind of molded it. And you can't really tell, which is really cool, but the length of the wall there got bigger, and so I had to adapt. I either had to put a half on each side to fill up the space in order to keep my lines and my squares the same in the middle. But what I chose to do in this case, because the design is so varied that you, other than the main way the napkin is turned, you won't really tell. So I started with a full sheet over here and then put a half sheet or a part of a sheet over here, and you can't hardly even tell. I just made sure that the napkin was turned the same direction, so even though the spacing in between isn't exactly right, it'll be behind the door, you'll never tell. So, other than if you've watched this and now you know. So I, again, went around the door jamb by just kind of cutting it to try to fit, and then, again, just kind of slid the extra underneath the wall space. So that's where we are now. The space that we have left to do is, if I can get up, out here. So this will be out in the main room, and I will continue to work on that and get back to you to show you how it's going. Let's see. Okay, so now we have it all done. It's all done all the way up to the edge. And it has Mod Podge over all of it. So there you go. Hello. Now we're going to work on sanding this. It's very nice and pristine, but you need to kind of be watching for dry spots where the glue didn't quite take as much as it should have. And so I've tried sanding. I was just kind of experimenting. And so I don't know that you're going to be able to tell the difference in the finish on this. How it looks like it's just been distressed a little bit. It looks old. A lot of the wrinkles get sanded up. So then it kind of gives it a distressed look. That's part of what gets sanded and gives you like little lines. So it, again, I don't know if you can see that. I'll have to check it later. Where it almost looks like it's really worn as compared to out here where it's still very nice and pristine. So again, just think of kind of a washed out, the difference between a brand new tea towel and a washed out one. Let me get, it's kind of going real fast. And a washed out one. So that's kind of the look that we're hoping for. So I'm using just a little palm sander. First I used a triangle shaped corner sander to kind of get against all the walls and kind of did the edge all the way around. So I have the glue out because there was a spot that had popped up. So I kind of glued it down and hoping that it'll kind of dry before I get to that part. If not, I'll come back and do it later. But just kind of wanted to do it. I'll take video here in just a minute of me actually sanding, but kind of wanted to show it to you before I get started. Okay, I've done this whole room with the sander, and there's been a couple spots where it pulled off a whole chunk. And while I don't find that a problem, I know that if I did this again, some of the things that I would do differently is that I would probably, instead of having the floor painted white first, because this is such a dark and vivid color of the napkin, I probably would have painted the underbelly a different color, closer to the yellow or a darker color, so that when the napkin does come up like that, you don't have such a drastic change in color. So that would be my suggestion so far. I'll again take video here in just a minute with me actually sanding, but it's really loud and I'm Just trying to get my technique down before I show you guys. Okay, now I'm going to do a little bit of sanding, and it'll be loud, but just wanted to let you know. So here I did again some more, and again some more little pieces came off, which again to me is okay, but some people may not like that. But what I was doing was just kind of sanding until I kind of got an old worn out dish rag look. So it's not as faded as I would like, so I may even come back later and do it again, but I just want to kind of get the first coat all done. And when you sand it, you feel that it's real rough where you have not sanded, and then when you sand, obviously it should be nice and smooth. So you're kind of smoothing off the Mod Podge too, just to give you a nice smooth coat for when you put the polyurethane down. Okay, so I changed my mind on the spots where it rubbed off, and I've fixed most of them already, but then I realized I hadn't videotaped it, so I'm going to show you what I did. So on the places where there were where it rubbed off, what I'm going to do is take a piece of napkin and cut it just a little bit bigger, or tear it so that I have a feathery edge, and I'm going to glue it back on. And then when it dries tomorrow or the next day, I'll come back and sand it a little bit more, and then I should not have big white spots. So I left some of the little white spots just because that's part of the wear, but the big ones kind of bothered me, so I wanted to try to fix it and then see what we think. So some of this, like that, I may leave, but this big corner where it really rubbed off, I'm going to try to cover it up. And with the very bold pattern that it has, I don't know that we will even notice, that anybody will even be able to tell that the design is kind of off because it has a little piece. But I tried to match it up so you don't even notice on here, because there was a big spot over there in the corner. There was a big spot over here. But this is what it looks like. I'm going to do it, and then I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, so I have found the spot for this particular one. I did try to match it up, and so I found another napkin and tore it about the same space of what I'm the same corner that I'm trying to redo. So that's what it's going to look like. So you won't even hardly notice. So let's see. I'll move that out of the way. Take some more Mod Podge. I'm going to really layer it on here. And again, it dries clear, so it's not a big deal. Take this. See if I can do this with holding the thing. I'm going to put it down where it'll kind of match up a little bit. So now I'm going to take some more and put it right over top of it. So it kind of fixes that corner and you won't even notice. However, now that I see how nice that looks, I may just go ahead and tear it, which is the next part of this napkin. I think I'm just going to go ahead and tear it and do that so that it kind of covers that whole edge up. And we're back, and now the floor has dried, and actually we're going to now put coats of polyurethane on it to kind of seal it and let us be able to walk on it and have a good protective surface over it so that we don't wear it down too quick to tear up the napkins as we walk on it. So now it'll become just part of the floor. So I'm using a oil-based polyurethane. The water-based ones are all fine now. You could probably use that. I'm going to put 5 coats over it. So I have a little bucket and a big sponge, and I'm putting it on, and I'll put it on not super thick, but a good coat. And like I said, I'm going to put 5 coats on, and we'll kind of see. In between coats, just kind of feel over the floor, and you may need to run a quick sandpaper over it just to kind of get any little bumps or bubbles out so that you kind of have a nice smooth floor. But yeah, just put 5 coats, let it dry, whatever the can says between coats, and kind of go. But here, I'll take a little video of me putting it on. Now obviously it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So I've already done this back section. So I kind of got right up here where the glare hopefully would be able to let you see kind of the shine. So I did a satin finish. You can use obviously whatever sheen you want. I like the satin. Even a matte would probably be okay, because then it won't be shine. So you see how this is kind of, it's got 2 coats on it already, so it's kind of got a little shine. If you did gloss, it would look like that. So it depends on how glossy you want it. I want it to look old and faded. So satin or even a matte would be sheen would probably be okay. So let me keep going. So I'm doing, because it's in squares, and this way I can remember where I've done, I kind of do it one direction and then the next direction on that square and kind of overlap it a little bit with the square above and beyond it and below it all around. So I just kind of do it like that. Just put a nice little coat, trying to keep it even, try not to have too many bubbles or puddles. So we'll put this on the whole floor. We'll let it dry for about 4 hours, and then we will put another coat on it. And I'm going to try to have 5 coats all together. So I don't know. All right. Thanks.